Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. Tonight I'm going to be making the third and final soap in my winter/Christmas line. And out of the three that I've decided on for this season, this is the most Christmas themed soap that I'm going to be making. And you guys have seen me make soap before using this fragrance oil, but I changed the design frequently because it is one that discolors to it's a really hard fragrance oil to work with the discoloration. It's called Santa Spruce, but it is so worth it because it smells so good. It smells quintessential Christmas to me. It's called Santa Spruce, I think, because if Santa wore cologne, this is what he would wear. But don't get turned off by the cologne because it definitely does not smell like cologne at all. When I make this soap, I call it Christmas Spirit because to me it just embodies the Christmas spirit. It's got like some fresh outdoor pine notes, but it's kind of got an icy pine note to it, and it also smells like sugar plums. So to me it's kind of a mixture of like the sugar plums and the pine, and it just smells so awesome. So I have designed this soap a few different ways over the years because I do bring this one back every year. I love it so much, and I use it for candles and for soap. This year I decided not to do a cold process soap with this fragrance because I do really have a hard time with the discoloration of this one. It turns a weird, kind of an off, like dark yellowish color. It's not even a tan. It's like a dark yellowish color, and it almost makes the white part of the soap look a little bit dirty, and it frustrates me. So I am going to be showing you how I use this fragrance oil in melt and pour soap because I still do really like it for soap, but I prefer it in melt and pour. And so this is a bonus for you as well because I have never made a melt and pour soap for you on this channel. So that being said, let's get started. Okay, so my most favorite melt and pour soap to use is the clear melt and pour base from Nurture Soap, and it is a low sweat detergent-free soap base. And let me tell you, it's got an excellent lather, and it really does not sweat at all. At least in my environment where I live, I've never had a problem with this soap sweating. So we're gonna go ahead and chop up. We are doing a 5-layer soap with melt and pour, so you're gonna get some tips and tricks from me tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with just chopping up 2 1-pound blocks of melt and pour soap. Okay, there is my 2 1-pound blocks broken up between 2 different containers, 1 pound each, because I am going to be making 10 pounds of melt and pour soap tonight. So this is going to be at the bottom of one layer, and this is going to be the bottom layer of the next soap. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these into the microwave, and I'm going to put them on about 30-second to 1-minute bursts until they are completely melted down. I just keep the microwave on high. I pop them in the microwave, and we just go slow, about 30-second to 1-minute burst, and I stir it between each burst, and I pop it back in until it's completely melted down. I will bring you back when these are all melted down. Okay, so the soap is all the way melted down. That took about 2 minutes and 20 seconds total. And the reason why, for those of you that have never made melt and pour soap, the reason why you want to go in bursts and take it out and check it and stir it is because you can actually burn your melt and pour soap base, and once your soap base is bubbling or smoking, it's actually scorched, and that means it's burnt. So it gets a funky smell, and it's just not good. So you want to go in short bursts, and you want to make sure you check it and stir it and check it and stir it. So right now the soap is all the way melted down, and then we're going to go ahead and add in some colorant here. And you're making sure to use, in the layered soap, for any type of layered soap or melt and pour layered soap, you want to make sure that you're using soap colorants that are not going to bleed, because I'm going to be doing layers. I don't want my soap layer colors to be migrating up into the other layers of the soap. So this is a non-bleeding colorant, and we're using for the bottom layer Tropical Teal Mica by Nurture Soap. And we're going to go ahead and add in to each container here about, we're going to start with about 1/4 of a teaspoon to each one and see where that gets us color wise. This is where we are with that color, and I'm probably going to add a little bit more color in here just to make it a bit more opaque. But you want to keep your rubbing alcohol handy because you're going to see in here there are some chunks of color, and the rubbing alcohol definitely helps to break up those chunks and get it to be dispersed evenly throughout the melt and pour. I'll show you what that looks like in a second after I stir it all in. The melt and pour base does, or the rubbing alcohol does help to break up those chunks and disperse the colorant through. And you do not have to worry, there will be no leftover rubbing alcohol in your soap. After it's all cured, it does dissipate and evaporate right out. So it's a nice thing to have when you're making melt and pour soap for a couple different reasons, and that is one of them. So I think I'm actually going to add a bit more, just a tiny bit more colorant in here to make sure that we are a little bit more opaque. Maybe about another 1/4 teaspoon per container. And then we're going to stir. The idea behind this design comes from that old-fashioned ribbon candy that you find around Christmas time. So you will see as we go along what other colors I'm going to be adding into here. And it just goes perfectly with the fragrance. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add in my fragrance oil. And I'm going to be adding that in. I will go ahead and share exact amounts and everything with you on my Patreon page, along with a full tutorial on how to make a layered melt and pour soap. This would be great for beginners or anyone who just wants to make soap for people at the holidays. Make soap for your family at the holidays. Melt and pour is a great way to do that and not get really invested or spend a lot of money. So we're going ahead and adding in our fragrance oil. I'm just using, one nice thing about melt and pour soap too is you do not have to use a lot of fragrance oil. A little bit really, really sticks into the soap. And then I'm going to bring my molds into the frame here to show you. So I am using my 2 5-pound molds with a silicone liner. Melt and pour soap really needs the silicone molds or silicone liners. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray down the mold with 91% rubbing alcohol. This just helps the soap to evenly spread across the whole surface of the mold. So we spray it down. I'm going to give it one last stir. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour in my first layer. And then you'll notice on the top there are some bubbles. That's another reason why the rubbing alcohol is handy. So once you spray the top of it, it just pops all the bubbles right out and you get a very smooth layer. It makes a really nice finish on top. You don't have to use rubbing alcohol, but it certainly does help with melt and pour soap. Okay, and here goes the second loaf. Okay, and that's layer number 1. Now we need to give this some time to set up. That does take a few minutes, so I'll bring you back when the soap is ready to be poured on top of. So I'll show you that when it looks the way that it needs to look to be layered on top of. But in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and prep our next 2 1-pound blocks of melt and pour soap, and I'll add them to my containers, and I'll bring you right back when we're ready to go ahead and pour the next layer. All right, I've got the next 2 1-pound blocks all melted down, and we're gonna go ahead and add in some Snowflake Sparkle Mica from Nurture Soap. And we want the silver to really show up in here. So I'm gonna actually be adding probably closer to about a teaspoon per 1-pound block. Here we go, into each container, maybe a skosh more in each one. And I just want it to show up. It's a metallic. Some of these flakes have a tendency to kind of sink, so I just want to make sure it's evenly distributed and that we really see the silvery flecks coming through. And so I might actually add a little bit even more than that. As you can see, that's what it looks like, which is really pretty, but you can still see the soap base, and I want to make sure it's just as that it shows up. So I'm putting in about another teaspoon and about another teaspoon in this side. And this sure is a pretty color. Snowflake Sparkle Mica I use a lot during the holiday season. And then you can use it as like an alternative glitter. There we go. That's what I'm going for right there. One of the nice things about melt and pour soap is it doesn't have to cure. As soon as it's set up and you cut it, you can use it. So that is one of the benefits. It doesn't have to sit for 4 to 6 weeks. It's usable right after you cut it. It doesn't take a lot of fragrance or color. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and add in the fragrance oil, and then I'll show you how we layer it. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and stir it to get it well combined. Okay, now we're almost ready to go ahead and layer it on top of the blue that we just poured over here. So I want to show you what the blue looks like right now. Let me move these over here. I'll move you back. So the blue soap is, actually I'm going to come over here. The blue soap is set up but not completely set up. So this is where it gets kind of tricky when you're layering melt and pour soap, and this is something that did take a little bit of practice. So what a good rule of thumb is if you can kind of touch it with your finger and it doesn't, you know, it feels a little bit thick. It's really hard to describe. It's a little bit bouncy, but your finger doesn't break right through. It's still a little bit warm to the touch. And if you blow on it like this, and the soap doesn't move around when you blow on it, it is ready for a second layer. However, if you pour your soap too hot over the top of this soap, it will break through, and then you're not going to have a clean layer. So I don't have a thermometer right here with me. Otherwise, I would take a quick temperature of it, but basically, let me go ahead and get my thermometer so I can give you an exact temperature here. Okay, I'm just using my digital thermometer here, and I'm taking the temperature of the melt and pour soap base here, and we're sitting right at around 100 degrees, which is perfect for pouring. Maybe it's slightly above 100, 103, 105, which is great for pouring. So we are not too hot on this soap, and this soap looks set up enough for another layer. So we do take the rubbing alcohol in this situation, and we spray the layer down with the rubbing alcohol. And that does help the second layer to adhere to it completely, and it also helps for the soap that I'm pouring on to spread evenly over the soap base. So here's the rubbing alcohol, and we're just gonna spritz down that blue layer. It's gonna help the other soap to bond to it, and also it's gonna help the soap to spread over the top of the soap. So what I'm gonna show you how I do this, just because I'm a little bit nervous that the soap is gonna break through after all that hard work. I would really hate for the soap to break through. I do take a spatula. It's probably not completely necessary, but it is gonna break the soap up a little bit so it's not landing directly on it's kind of breaking the soap up so it's not landing directly on that blue layer. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give it a good spritz. I do have a little bit of soap in here. And then we're gonna go ahead and do the next layer over here. So we've got the beautiful icy blue color. And this time I think I'm gonna pour with my right hand. I always get confused when I hold the spatula. I'm gonna pour with my right hand because that's easier for me. And I'm gonna hold the spatula with my left. There, that was so awkward on that first pour. This is how I normally do it. I just get confused when I'm talking and trying to give you instructions while making soap. Okay, this is how you do it. See how nice and slow and careful I'm going? So I'm not breaking through that first layer. Okay. Okay. And there is both layers of the Snowflake Sparkle color. And I got a little bit of soap splashed up there. You want to make sure and clean that off because that will affect how clean your lines look if you do get that splash up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray this one. And then I'll bring you right back when the soap is set up and we're ready to pour the next color. Okay, we're ready for that third layer to be poured, and we're gonna be using the Laurel Green mica powder from Nurture Soap, and it is the most beautiful, sparkly kind of vintage green. Of course, those sparkles will be a bit muted once it gets into the soap, but I think it's such a beautiful color for Christmas. And it's just a nice vintage kind of green color. So we're gonna be going ahead and putting in about a teaspoon into each container of soap that we have going here. Get you adjusted. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and spritz this with some rubbing alcohol. I did go ahead and check this before I turned on the camera, and it is ready to go. And we are gonna get the spatula just to make sure we don't break through that layer. And slowly start to pour that soap on there. There we go. Smells so Christmassy in here right now. Really starting to put me in the Christmas spirit already. It's only October. What are your favorite colors for Christmas? What are your favorite scents, and what are your favorite colors for Christmas? That's what I know. That's what I want to know from you guys. I definitely have like my favorites. Like this one is one of my most favorite. I do love like a red hot cinnamon fragrance oil around Christmas time, and I also like Christmas tree scent. I know that one's a little bit hit or miss with people, but I really do like a nice mild Christmas tree scent. Those are some of my favorites. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and spritz this down. And I will bring you back when we're ready to pour the next layer. Okay, we're back to pour the fourth layer, and we are pouring a gold layer. Now I made this with the Shimmer Gold mica powder, about a heaping teaspoon for 1 pound. And I've misplaced my spatula, so I'm gonna go ahead and use a serving spoon to break that soap up a little bit. And I'm spraying my soap with some more rubbing alcohol. Okay. So pretty, I love this color. Okay. And then the next soap mold. All right, spritz that down. And I'll bring you back when we're ready to pour that 5th and final layer. Okay, we're back to go ahead and pour that 5th and final layer. I'm gonna go ahead and spritz this with some rubbing alcohol. And what I've done here is I've added in about a 1/4 teaspoon of Purple Vibrance Mica from Nurture Soap into 1 pound of that melt and pour base I showed you. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and pour that 5th and final layer. It might be a little bit too much for this mold, so I'm gonna stop right there. Give it a spritz. Grab the other one. Such a gorgeous color purple. I don't know if the camera's picking up exactly what I'm seeing, but it's so pretty. Okay, well, there we go. We're gonna stop right there. Give it a spritz. I've got a little bit left over on the purple. So there you have it. I'm gonna go ahead and pour that purple into some silicone little molds, little cavity molds. And tomorrow I'm gonna show you how I cut this, and I'm super excited. I can't believe I haven't shown you how I cut this before, because I have a cutter that I purchased, I think 2 years ago. Yeah, I think 2 years ago, that cuts melt and pour soap, and it has changed my life. So I can't wait to show you that, and I'll be right back for the cutting. Okay, everybody, we're back to cut the soap, and this is what it looks like. I just think it turned out so pretty. I love all the colors. It reminds me of Christmas lights or ribbon candy, and it smells so good. Okay, this is what I was wanting to share with you for a while, so I'm really happy to show this to you today. This is actually a cutter specifically made for melt and pour soap. So if you have a wire cutter or a multi-bar cutter, it will not cut melt and pour soap. You actually will probably pop the strings if you try to use it. This one was made specifically for melt and pour soap, so you get real perfect even cuts. And before this, I was just using a knife to cut my melt and pour soap, so this is a much more professional, clean looking soap. So I was really happy to come across this. There's the first bar. So pretty. see that? I'll go ahead and cut one more for you because they do all look the same. So. One of the cool things about a striped soap like this is you could do either side. Blue on top, purple on the bottom, or the other way around. All right, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you on the next one.